It's February 25th, 2021. This is Roqe. By his late 30s, he had everything a responsible Persian lad is meant to achieve. A six-figure salary, a solid corporate job in London, and a resume full of status and abundance. But his lifelong dream had been to become an explorer, and so Reza Pakravan literally gave up all that he had to head to the Sahara Desert in the aim of a Guinness World Record on a bicycle. Now Reza is one of the best-known explorers around, with his own TV shows and documentaries and many stories to tell. Reza Pakravan joins me for a feature interview, plus Chef Haas is here with the beauty of Barbaries, and Keon with It's All Persian to Us. This is Conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode number 88 of Roqe. 88 hashed.
بله فهمیدم. مرسی.
Kian Jun.
مرسی.
I'm just trying to explain, help you. I'm helping you with the numbers.
خدمت کردی.
That makes sense. Two people who can't speak Farsi very well speaking to each other on the air. Welcome to those of you listening around the world. Durud bar shoma, khosh omadid, 88. Hope you're all doing well, okay, getting vaccinated, wearing at least 3 masks, all of that. Keon, Reza Pakravan.
Yeah, he sounds interesting.
He'll be joining me in about 10 minutes or so from London. So this is an Iranian-British explorer, documentary maker, motivational speaker, writer. People might have seen his shows on BBC, Channel 4, Fox, CBC, Al Jazeera. So as I was saying in the opening bills there, he leaves this corporate 6-figure income at the age of 37 to ride his bicycle across the Sahara, literally, and set other records. Like he's the first person to travel the entire span of the earth by foot and bike. I mean, what he has done is quite remarkable, although I think just the fact that he uprooted his life to pursue it is maybe the most remarkable feat. And he has some really inspirational messages from all of that. So Reza Pakravan coming up.
Sounds like the modern day Marco Polo.
Oh.
Fascinating.
Hi, the fabulous Keon.
Oh, hi, Jian.
Are you? So you're excited for Reza Pakravan?
Yeah, I mean, he's an adventurer, correct? He sounds like
he is. And speaking of Rezas, we have our own Captain Reza. Hi, Captain Reza.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Groovy Shaya.
Hello, Reza.
Captain Reza.
What about him? What now?
I just gotta. Sorry, Captain Reza. I don't mean to throw you under the bus here. Listen, let me first explain something.
I know what you're gonna say.
Captain Reza is, he's like my brother. He is he's a great young documentary filmmaker, really fabulous guy, very talented guy, very khosh tip. We always talk about that. No, there's no but. There's no, okay. But we have a, as you know, Keon, out in our lobby, in our main area, we have a modest TV, a flat screen TV that actually it's not so modest, it's a nice TV that was given to us. And we play music on it, we play Roqe episodes on it, so if anybody stops by or guests come, they see the Roqe episodes. Well, it's been kaput. I don't know if you knew this, but it suddenly stopped working, right? It suddenly stopped working, and you don't have to feign like you're, it wasn't the end of the world, but it wasn't working.
It is to me.
It's just a funny story. It wasn't working, and so and I like to have some piano music playing, or I like to play the Roqe episodes so we can look at them and talk about them or whatever. And so it's not working. So this is like a week and a half ago. Okay. I say to Captain Reza, because I start to buy the hype that he's peddling, that he knows how to do everything, right?
Right.
So I'm like, hey, Captain Reza, the TV's not working, and he's just, he's one of those Iranian guys who makes himself out to be an authority, like he's like, let me take a look at that, right?
He
You know,
sounds
and so
confident.
you think, okay, well then Reza is
He knows
going
what he's
to.
talking
He
about.
knows what he's doing.
So then, a couple days pass, and there's been no change to the status of the broken TV. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, baby, I'm going to have to take this thing apart. This is, maybe I'll come in on the weekend with my screwdriver. He's like giving me all these technical stuff. I don't even understand what he's talking
Fancy
about. Right?
words.
He's like, the connector in the back. We have to. I need to. And I'm like, should we call Bell? Like, is it a? No. Let me. And he's like insinuating overtime pay, like whatever. He's like, this is going to be a
doozy.
I need to say, he's rolling up his sleeves. I need to give me some time with this, So I'm like, all right, thanks, Captain Reza. Okay, and nothing gets done, of course, right? Zero. Like every day I walk in, the TV's just like blank, nothing.
I was gonna say there's no jazz playing.
There's
in the
nothing.
lobby,
There's
you know?
nothing. Just like snow. If you turn it on, there's nothing. And so today, like this morning, Savvy Roham is here. Modest Savvy Roham. He's not really a self-promotional guy. Kind of walks around. And I go and I walk by the TV and I go, by the way, Savvy Roham, maybe you could talk to Captain Reza, because clearly this is going to be a huge, engineering feat to fix this. To fix this TV. Can you maybe talk to Reza and help him out, or like, I don't know, we're gonna have to call somebody or something like that, And I walk, I walk into my office, and like literally 2 minutes later, Savvy Rohan comes into the office and yes, it is fixed. It's no problem, And I'm like, what? Just and like so, Savvy Rohan fixed it, right?
We need to promote Savvy Roham, it sounds like.
I mean, or demote Captain.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's a captain. He's a captain.
Let me defend myself and elaborate on the story a little bit more.
I think so. Maybe if I take these two wires and connect them in the back, and I can, I was like, he talked to me about how he's going to fix this TV for at least half an hour. If he had spent a minute just looking at it, I don't know.
So the TV is a smart TV. It connects to the internet, right?
See, this is the way he talks. Right?
See, the fact of the matter is,
our
it's a smart
internet is
TV.
working fine, but the TV is not working. Like, it's not connecting to the internet.
Right.
So
why didn't you
was
fix
like,
it?
I want to check this. Oh, listen to this. So I'm looking up like instructions how to fix this. My Wi-Fi is working fine, but the TV is not working. How to fix that? And they were like, oh, you got to do factory reset. I'm like, how do you do a factory reset? I'm going through the menus. I can't figure it out. I'm like, listen, like, we got a show to put out. Like, let me just get to it later. And then Jian talked to Savvy Roham about this. And Savvy is like, so what do we do? I'm like, I don't know. It says it's got to do factories. I don't know how to do it, blah, 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 blah. Literally, like 30 seconds later, he's like, it's fixed. I'm like, what did you do? He's like, I unplug it and plugged it back in.
Isn't that the first thing you should try?
Well, see,
when something is
I'm fine with like I mean, other than the fact that Reza spent a week and a half, not equivocating and coming up with theories and like I'm okay with all of that. The only part is, this is what I'm saying, the Persian guy part, where he just can't say to me, you know what, I don't know how to do. I don't know what's going on with, he comes up with this like whole song and dance, right?
I think the title of captain really got to his head. He really walks around with authority. You're not a real captain, Reza.
Hey, we're on an ongoing mission, Captain Reza.
Are we?
Yes.
Great.
To build a new audiovisual encyclopedia with your tools.
Oh, boy.
Of Iranian diaspora identity. We're coming to you on SoundCloud, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, CastBox, Telegram. We've launched our patrons page, folks. So we ask for your help. If you're a listener of Roqe, Shaya, you're a listener of Roqe.
Yes.
And you're also a patron.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
True.
You like what you hear. Shaya signed up for $5 a month. I thought that was very sweet. Yeah.
That's great.
If you like what you hear, you support our content, or you appreciate a platform dedicated to the connective tissue of Iranian diaspora identity, please don't wait for others to keep us alive. You could play your part. $10 a month, $25, $50 a month. You are a rock star. It really is helpful, and it takes you a minute. You just go to our website, roqemedia.com, and click on support us. roqemedia.com, support us. By the way, speaking of support, I had a friend text me after the last show saying, "Oh, you should stop putting yourself down so much," because we had Dr. Abbas Ardahali on, right?
Impressive
Who
guy.
was amazing. Yeah, I mean, so many people, at least the folks that I know who listen to us and stay are in contact with, just loved that interview, loved him. Thought he was so impressive. But for all of us, we were like through that whole episode, we were kind of going, well, what are we, chopped liver compared to, he's like this amazing surgeon, doctor, engineer, Dr. Abbas. And it was even one point in the interview where I go, I'm, compared to you, I'm a failure, which is like the cue for him to say, no, Jian, you've done you've written books. Or
He says
and
nothing.
Instead he was like, well, yeah, I've studied a lot and I don't know what you've done, So,
Yes, you are.
Dr. Abbas said, I mean, you're so amazing. The rest of us are chopped liver. Well, if you guys had studied the way I have, you wouldn't be chopped liver. No, I mean, he was lovely, we should get to Reza Pakravan. I know he's waiting. We'll get to him in London in just a few moments. Chef Haas is going to be here with how to best use barberries in your cooking, how to best use barberries. But first, it's Thursday. You know what that means. She's a dear friend, a diaspora blend, a gym fanatic, a kook who can be erratic, but lovable, smart, funny, and on a journey to discover what we actually discovered. Here we go, Bachaha. It's all Persian to us with Kian Nademi. All right. What do you have for us, Kian?
Well, we're now approaching almost a year of lockdowns around the world, filling our time by any means possible, whether that be through distractions or attractions. For many of us, sweatpants and binge-watching movies and shows has become the new norm. Wine is optional. It's become a pastime, a salvation, if you will, the escape from reality we all so desperately crave. For me, it started on a Monday. It was March 16th, the year was 2020. It was a cold and snowy day. In Toronto, we've seen plenty. Pacing back and forth in my hopeless despair, with a sudden look at the mirror, I gasped, "What dreadful hair!" Brushing it out to pass the time, I wondered to myself, oh, what's the point? Where's that wine? I poured myself a glass and turned on the TV, as I slowly fell into a trance, filled with glee. Such excitement, such delight, a world of imagination, filled with light, filled with color, melting away all agitation. And so many moons had passed and days flew by, without feelings of boredom, with me, myself, and I. So I'm not sure if that gave you guys any clues or confused you all into an
We
oblivion.
invented Netflix? Is that
We
right?
invented poetry. Rhyming. We invented rhyming.
Well, that's a given, but pretend you're a kid. You're in your childhood. What did you watch a lot of?
Cartoon.
What's
lot of
the most
cartoon.
famous cartoon?
Tom and
Bugs
Jerry,
Bunny.
Bugs Bunny,
But
Looney
but
Tunes.
even where do you go in Florida and California? There's that theme park.
Oh, Walt Disney.
Disney World.
Yes, yes.
Disney.
So now what
We
is
invented Disney World. The Persians invented Disney World. It wasn't Walt Disney.
It wasn't Walt Disney.
I'm making my job way harder. So what is Disney?
Where is this going?
Tell me, what is Disney known for?
Animation.
Yes, Shaya, the very thing that made our childhood so magical. Well, the first evidence of animation comes from a little place you might have heard of.
Oh, come
Ancient
on.
Persia. The year was 3000 BC, archaeologists discovered.
3000 BC.
The location
And
was
we were-
Burnt City in Iran, where pottery was uncovered. Drawings of an animal seeming like a goat. When spun really fast, away it would float. Sorry, I had to. I'm done rhyming.
Please.
Yes, my friends, the world's first ever animation was found on a goblet in the Burnt City, or Shahr-e-Sukhte, in the Sistan Baluchistan province, the southeastern part of Iran.
Yes.
Covering 151 hectares, this was one of the largest cities at the dawn of the urban era, dating back to 3200 BC. No, sorry, yes, 3200 BC. Yes, I read that right. The city had 4 different stages of civilization and was burnt down 3 times before finally being completely abandoned
Sorry, can I ask a
in
question?
1800 BC. Yes,
We're
go
talking
ahead.
about animation, right?
Yes.
So it was found, animation was found on a pottery 3,000
yes.
years ago?
Yes, I'll
Like,
get
was
to
it-
that.
You mean a drawing?
Yes. But no.
Didn't we invent drawing?
No.
then?
Let
Okay.
me elaborate.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a
Yes.
camel on the. What was it? It was a goat.
Well, close.
Stereotypical.
Yes.
It is a goat, though.
So you guys are killing my
Like
segment.
goats.
All right. So the reason for the constant rise and fall of the city, you might ask, is completely unknown, which makes this place extremely mysterious even to this day. Nonetheless, several artifacts were discovered in this ancient lost city, telling a story of a once thriving metropolis in Persia. And one of these artifacts was this goblet I mentioned, which told its very own story through the use of moving visual art. So this goblet, when you spin it around really fast, and I can show you it's like a little, they did a little redo of the images and how it would
Who
look.
did?
And it's just archaeologists and scientists, whoever, those people that discovered, I would imagine. I don't know.
thought you
Jan.
discovered this.
Asking very
I
specific
see. Okay,
questions. Yes. So when you spin it around really
so you
fast.
you put pictures of a goat
Yes.
on a goblet,
Yeah,
and then you spin the goblet.
So when you spin it, a horned goat appeared to be jumping towards a tree to
Nice.
eat its leaves. It's adorable. This artifact had a diameter of 8 centimeters and a height of 10 centimeters. And with intricate moving images, it's the very first of its kind. An unprecedented discovery that was very telling of the people from this lost city. They were highly imaginative, inventive, mysterious, and had a special talent for storytelling. Now, I know most of you think the oldest cartoon character was a friendly little fella called Mickey Mouse. But as it turns out, it was a hungry little goat from ancient Persia. It's all Persian to us. Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? I had no idea. This was news to me, too.
I mean, it's amazing, but at the same time, I feel like some of these things are a stretch. It's like we invented animation because there was a goat on a goblet 3,000 years ago that we spun around.
I mean, it was
But I
moving-
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first of its kind. Like, never,
Sure.
it's pretty cool seeing an image moving in any way.
It's not exactly South Park, but it's...
No,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course. Well, listen, what do you expect in 3,200 BC?
There was a goblet with a goat.
That's pretty cool,
I actually
man.
think it's very cool, though.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kian. Animation added to the list. I mean, most of the things you described, pants, wine.
These are things that got us through the pandemic,
That's right.
I'm telling
That's
you.
right. The pandemic toolkit was invented by the Persians. Thank you. Let's get to our feature guest. Thank you, Captain Reza, Groovy Shaya, and the fabulous Kian. Our feature guest today is a 2-time world record holder for crossing the Sahara Desert by bicycle in 13 days, and fastest bicycle journey from the Arctic Circle through the length of the entire planet to Cape Town, South Africa in 102 days. Reza Pakravan is an Iranian-British explorer, documentary maker, motivational speaker, and writer. He has famously trekked the length of the Amazon and has also become the first person in modern history to have traveled the full length of Africa from west to east. He has walked the length of the Patagonia Desert, crossed the Annapurna Circuit in the Nepalese Himalayas on a bike, and summited the Mount Sabalana in Iran, which is 17,000 feet, by the way, all while carrying his bicycle. Reza has presented and produced primetime TV series highlighting important global issues for some of the world's top networks, such as BBC, Channel 4, Fox, Al Jazeera, and CBC. He is the author of a few books, including the bestseller Cap to Cape, Never Look Back, Race to the End of the Earth. Reza is a fellow of the Royal Geographical Society and a recipient of the Explorer Award from the Scientific Exploration Society. And right now, Reza Pakravan joins me from London, England today. Hello, sir.
Salam. Hello. How you guys doing?
Well, it's such a pleasure to get to talk to you. Thank you for doing this. I'm glad I can catch you in between biking across the Sahara and falling off mountains.
Well, these days, those seems to be a distant memory. Basically, my biggest adventure these days is just to go to the high street and buy a pack of nappies and for my little kid and come back home. So
Well, I know you have a kid, and that's part of what would be tying you down right now. But my first question for you was going to be, what are the implications of a global pandemic for a global adventurer?
well, all sorts of implication. Basically, I am spending a lot of time. A big part of my life happens on the road. every year I, getting countless flights and, in remote corners of the world constantly. But over the last, let's say, year, I've been pretty much homebound and tied to my computer. At the beginning was great, but the novelty wore off very quickly. It gave me a great opportunity to bond with my baby, newborn one. But sort of a cabin fever started to set in.
Let me dive into the Reza Pakravan story, personality, by asking you a general question first. Why do you have such a fondness for risk?
I don't know. Maybe it just goes back to my childhood. I grew up during the war in Iran-Iraq war. I've seen Iranian revolutions. There's nothing to scare me. Our schools turned to a bomb shelter. That's how I grew up, and that's what I saw in my life. So, global pandemic or, going to countries that, they're high risk doesn't really bother me that much. Have you heard of people that, they had very close to death experiences? And, I had that very close to death experiences in very early stage in my life. So
yeah, but let me just go through a short list here, and some of which we're going to get to in this interview. But you got malaria in Africa. You were arrested and held by Sudanese intelligence for a few days. You were held at gunpoint by Al Qaeda. You were held at gunpoint by a human smuggler with an AK-47 and hunted by hyenas crossing the world's most dangerous borders. I mean, Reza Can, is it possible to express your risk through going on a steep roller coaster or eating some really spicy wings? I mean, do you have to cross the Sahara on a desert and almost kill yourself on a bicycle?
I mean, look, it all sounds, very scary, but, that there is, the fact of the matter is, for all of these things, they are level of risk that I'm taking. It's all calculated risk. There are incidents that, sometimes I'm saying there's nothing more powerful than when you're dropped in the middle of the jungle, or you're in the middle of a desert. That moment that the helicopter drops you, and you're right in the middle of it, and the help is at least 5 days away. The first medical point is like 5 days away. There's no rescue. That's a really powerful moment. And I had few of those powerful moments, but I really calculate risks before I sort of venture into the unknown. I don't, wake up in the middle of the night and thinking of tomorrow I'm going to the Amazon. I have to go through a huge amount of process to justify to the networks that the level of risk that I'm taking is sort of a manageable risks, and I battened on all the hatches before I actually set off to those journeys. And there is certain level of risk that there are things happens that really beyond my control, like being arrested in Sudan. I didn't expect that to happen, although I had all the paperwork, all the permissions, everything was in place. But in a matter of days, the big dictator was toppled, and the Sudan went to civil war, and I got arrested in Darfur, which was very unfortunate. But we had a backup plan, which didn't work. But
it is unfortunate. One doesn't want to be arrested in Darfur. Unfortunate may be a tame word to use for that situation. But it's interesting that you say, okay, well, I have to satisfy the networks and make sure, and because at this point there are networks, and there probably are insurance policies, and there probably are people looking out for you, and you've got these tentacles and connections and networks around the world who are covering what you do and you do for them. That wasn't the case when you began, and in a way, I was thinking, is what Reza does courageous? I mean, it seems courageous, and yet it's a choice. To me, perhaps one of the most courageous things you've done is to uproot your life and lead yourself into this path? I mean, the story is you were a financial analyst in London, and as you said, you had all the things that someone would have been told that they could want in life, but you didn't feel fulfilled doing that. And at the age of 37, you transitioned from the corporate world to this adventure world. That takes actually a lot of courage to do. It's perhaps your riskiest move of all. How sure were you that this was the right path?
I do agree with you. Between everything I've done, perhaps that was the riskiest path that I took. I wasn't sure at all. I spent my 40th birthday with my family live in California, and I spent my 40th birthday with my brother in a bar in suburban Bay Area, and sitting in a sort of empty bar and just bursting into tears. And I was telling him, like, I have no money. I'm actually completely broke. I'm like minus 15 grand. My savings are all gone. Not a single network has picked up my sort of documentaries, and I've written a book. Not a single publisher is interested in me. Not a single sponsor is interested to pick me up, and I don't know what to do. What is next? Going back to finance. By then, I deleted my LinkedIn profile. I basically killed all the return route to finance, and I started thinking, oh well, I might have to bite the bullet and just go back. And then finally, as I give up on everything, then one door opened, and that led to another, and that led to another, and then the rest is history.
I can really picture that story of you at 40 in the bar with your brother. I'm curious what your brother said. I know you told your mom that you had quit your job and decided to call yourself an adventurer, and her reaction was that she has another word for adventurer, which is you can tell the story. But
yeah. Basically, she always believed that that she thinks that adventurer is another word for being unemployed. Even up until today, but a typical Iranian mom. When she wants to introduce me to people, she always says, "Oh yeah, my son who was working in investments, market in London. Now he's doing adventures and that kind of stuff. But my son, was in financial market." Like,
you mean the National Geographic series and CBS and all that? That's not enough now. BBC.
No interest whatsoever in any of those.
That's amazing, and yet not surprising. But the other part of this that's really crazy is that you weren't like this amazing guitar player who gives up the financial world at 37 to play guitar. You didn't even know if you could do this. I mean, it's amazing that you had the confidence, because from what you've said, I mean, you wanted to become an explorer and make adventure television. And now we can look at you and go, wow, this guy actualized his dreams. But how did you even know you could do it? You said your biggest outdoor experience at the time was 2 days of camping at a music festival. I mean, you didn't actually know you could be the guy who's crossing the Sahara and shooting it and filming it and making these kind of documentaries. So tell me about that.
Do you know what, Jian? There's a famous saying ignorance is a blessing. So perhaps my ignorance and the level of incompetence and and not knowing what is exactly entail helped me. You know what I'm saying? I really didn't have a clue how am I supposed to make money out of this world. You have worked in television for a long time, and as you know, there's no simple path. Not necessarily you go to the film school or the
right.
television school, you end up working in television. That's right. Not right. I'm actually quite curious to know your opinion about this. But there is no blueprint, and I didn't have any blueprint to follow. Someone said to me, you know what? If you want to do this, you just have to do it over and over again. Just do expedition after expedition. Start from small and just go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what I've done so far, from a morning bike ride and turned to all the way through like 5 months, 6 months being on the road.
Well, first of all, I think you're absolutely right that there's no blueprint, and also we are in a world where media platforms and media reach is changing so rapidly that it's hard to, it's hard for executives at old school networks to even know what is going to work 5 years from now. So what you've done and doing it yourself and then licensing it is arguably the least risky thing to do. I mean, it's really smart as it's turned out. But there wasn't a blueprint. And, there was, it's not just that it wasn't a blueprint for how this is going to work on television. There's not a blueprint for some of the things you've done. No one had crossed the entire Sahara Desert on a bicycle before, partly because seemingly no one had that idea. Where did you even get that idea?
Perhaps no one was stupid enough to do that. I thought if I want to be relevant, and especially in that age, I really don't have time. I really need to go big. And I thought, well, to go big, maybe I just have to you break the world record. I looked at different geographical locations, and I realized, well, okay, Sahara Desert, what I can bike, maybe I can bike across the Sahara Desert, and I applied to the Guinness World Record. And to my shock, they came back with the latitude and longitude with a lot of rules and stuff like that, and I'm just thinking, where the hell is all of this came from, and once I had something to work with, that became the reality. That became my reality. It took me about a year to get myself to the level that I had the confidence that I can actually do it. And once you've done that, you think, okay, what is next? And then you go and do something bigger, and then bigger and bigger and bigger.
How did you start these trips financially? A few moments ago, you said that you basically spent all your money, and that kind of answers the question, because I hadn't seen this anywhere in terms of the research. I know now you have networks, you have programs, you have sponsors. When you go on this first major journey, this crossing the Sahara Desert, did you finance it all personally? And did you even have a sense of what the costs of this were going to be?
It wasn't that expensive, to be honest. I mean, I did it on cheap. I did it with a couple of $1,000. It was that cheap. All you need in a Sahara Desert is a bit of food and some water and a guide. That's all you need. And a ticket to get to Algeria and Sudan and Chad and that sort of places, which they're not really expensive. So whatever I've done at the beginning was my holidays, going away. Where I lost all my money was basically I have to live with no salary for a while. When I resigned my job and left the corporate world and went on a big journey, that was all sort of sponsored. I was all sort of, I managed to, after the Sahara, I started getting sponsorship. So all these times, money was, flying out of my pocket. In fact, expeditions weren't the things that was, costing me money, because while I was on the road, my requirements were quite minimum. And, normally I had a bit of a sponsorship or $15-20 a day. That was my maximum spend. It doesn't cost much, cycling across across Kenya or trekking across Patagonia. Those things are fairly cheap.
Right.
But what it was costing me a lot of money was going to the film school, renting a place in London or San Francisco, right. Paying hefty money to the landlord. And then I got to the stage that I didn't have any more money, so I just have to couch surf from friends to friends.
You must have had friends and family thinking that you're crazy at that point, right? You've gone from this swanky London financial guy to now couch surfing and going to Kenya on a bicycle.
Especially in Iranian culture, couch surfing is quite frowned upon.
Right.
I mean, between British friends here, it was all right, but between families, we were really shocked.
Like Bichare Chishude, what happened to him? Yeah, he's Divune
Exactly.
I'm going to ask you in a little while about this. There's a moment on your Cap to Cape journey where, post malaria, where you really think you can't go on anymore, and there's an inspirational story of what gets you going. But before we get to that, I wonder in the early going, like when you do this first Sahara trek, why you didn't give up, because there's a story of how okay, so you decide you're going to break the record, you're going to cross the Sahara, you begin training with your bike in the Sahara Desert, and 6 months in, you realize it's horrible. You're bruised, you're beaten, you're sunburnt. Why didn't you give up then?
I wanted to give up, but the fact that I couldn't give up because there was nowhere to go. Even if the problem with this line of job is, even if you want to give up, you somehow have to get yourself out of that situation anyway.
Right.
So you might as well just carry on. That is a problem. So once you're out of that situation, you've already forgotten about it, and you might as well just carry on.
I want to come back to these incredible feats and like I said, that journey from Cap to Cape, the length of the world. Take us back for a second. What were you like as a kid growing up in Iran?
Middle class family. Mom and dad both worked in television. Growing up in a sort of a television family post revolution. Both my mom and dad worked in sort of for foreign televisions, and then they went back pre-revolution to Iran. They met each other in national television. They worked. They had us, and the revolution happened, and then we were in the country. Then war happened, so we were cut off from the rest of the world. I remember the biggest inspiration for me in those days was Tintin. I was really sort of interested in world geographic, and any Iranian kid, they know Tintin, and that was up until today. I always say it in my talks that little boy Tintin, that was our only contact with outside world. I went with Tintin to Congo. I went with Tintin to Americas. That was a culture book.
Huh.
That was effectively a Bible to geography, to stories of different part of the world. And when I sort of grew up a little bit more, I started reading a lot about sort of explorers, especially British explorers like Shackleton, Scott, Stanley, those sort of guys. I grew up in Iran playing basketball, sort of a semi-pro basketball, through all my teenage time and sort of early university years, and then I come to London.
By the way, I don't think North Americans know Tintin as well. As dodgy as the old cartoons are, growing up in England, I certainly knew Tintin, and I know people in Belgium where he originated would know him. But I remember coming to Canada as a kid and talking about Tintin, and other kids were like, what is Tintin? But I do know that Iranians know Tintin, right? This, as you say, it was kind of a window into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it took me a while to understand why, all of us were so obsessed with Tintin. I totally get it now, why. That was, there's no equivalent to it. Nowadays, if you look at Tintin book, it's quite a racist book.
It's antiquated, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Looking at, but you can see, when it was written, you can put it into context, in sort of during Belgium was colonizing Congo, it's sort of that sort of a mentality, that sort of it was written in that sort of time. So yeah, that was our window to the world.
Were you an adventurer as a kid? In other words, would it have been obvious to your friends in Iran that you would be a guy who would end up biking across Africa and setting records?
Not really. Basically, perhaps another inspiration for me those days was my dad, which was, really encouraging me to get outside and experience sort of outdoors. He was taking us to the mountains. As a kid, I had an opportunity to travel with him a lot when he was making documentaries. So somehow during the summer I could go out and be changing his tapes, or putting a tripod together for him, and what he was filming independently, that kind of stuff. So I was exposed to traveling. I traveled perhaps more than all my friends in inside Iran. Perhaps Tintin and my father were really good. They sparked my imagination to the world of traveling.
By your early 20s, you leave to England, where you study. Did you think you were leaving Iran for good, or did you think you were just going to study and that you were going to return to Iran?
I had a very clear vision. I wanted to come to London, and I would just wanted to go to finance, and I wanted to make lots of money. That was my clear vision. I chosen finance because it was the perfect time to be in finance, especially in London, financial market. It was a prime industry. Finance was booming. I knew that if I get to the financial education, I'll be fine. I will be working in a really prime industry. And I saw my mom and dad's life, working really hard, long TV hours for not much money. And I thought, oh, I know better. I'm going to go to finance, and I'm going to make loads of money, and I'm going to prove you guys wrong. And then fast forward, a few years later, I was laughing at myself, how foolish I was. I didn't follow my passion, and I ended up doing something I didn't really like. So,
although you did prove that when you set your mind to do something, apparently Reza Pakravan can do it. I mean, whether it's becoming a king in the financial industry or a king in the global adventure. Just in terms of your connection to Iran, that journey from Cap to Cape. So this is from the Arctic Circle down to the bottom of South Africa. This is perhaps your most spectacular and most challenging journey you've taken, where you start at the top of the world, you make your way through Russia, Egypt, all the way down through Africa. Part of that was you went through Iran, and I was wondering what it was like as an expat trekking through Iran for you after exploring so many other unknown lands to you.
Yeah, I mean, exploring Iranian wilderness wasn't so alien to me, but I was so excited when I got to Iran because, firstly, I could eat well. I was traveling through some horrible places in Russia, which I had to endure horrible food. And Russia is a place that you pedal and pedal and pedal, and you get nowhere because it's so big. It's empty. In the middle of Russia, between big cities, it's just this one line highway. If you're lucky, you see a one truck passing by every, 20 minutes. And so much horrible food. The roads were terrible. So by the time we got to Azerbaijan, got a little bit better. But by the time I got to Iran, I passed the border. The first thing I did, I went to the first restaurant, and I had, because I was burning 6,000 calories a day, so I could eat whatever I wanted. So I went to this restaurant. I ordered 2 mahi sefid, 2 chelo mahi sefid, 2. The guy was shocked at how much I managed to eat. And I finished the whole thing, and I ordered another portion of rice to take with me. So the guy thought I'm completely must be starving. Through Iran, I ate so well. The roads were great. Iranian roads are pretty good. And it was mountainous. It was great. My travel partner also really enjoyed it. People were really friendly. Everyone's helped us a lot. Wind was with us. So it turned to be a really, really good experience.
One of the things you've said actually in your documentaries, by the way, we're going to link to your website, and for people who are just coming to get to know you through this interview, you should follow Reza, and we'll make sure that we have a link to your site, which is quite comprehensive, and it has links to a lot of your different films and series. But one of the things you say is one of the great challenges of Africa, where you've done a lot of your journeying and adventuring, is what to eat and how to eat and where to eat. That said, when you do eat, sometimes it doesn't go so well. You, I guess, infamously, in terms of your own journey, contract malaria somewhere in and around Kenya, I think, on this big trek. And this is when it looks like things are really going sideways. You are sidelined. It's interesting to me that when you have malaria, there's some moments where you're on camera talking about this, and you say the only thing you can think is, I have to keep going. This is despite the fact that you can barely move for a few days. Still, you get up, you don't give up, and yet when you get back on your bike after some time, you really are at the end of your physical abilities. And in as much as I've watched the series that you've done, this seems like your darkest moment, where you just think, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to break the record. I'm not going to get to Cape Town. I'm not going to go the entire length of the world. There's a story you tell about how there are people in the Sahara who start running alongside you and give you energy to keep going. Can you describe that, Reza?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I got to the bottom of my energy. It was squeezed every ounce of will out of my system to keep on going. My body was battered with malaria. Then I was hit by heat stroke. So I had nothing left in me. My body was sort of ravaged completely. And I basically had a really, really dark moment. I thought, look, you're like 38, you live in a tent, you don't have any friends, you can't remember when was the last time you had decent portion of food. You're completely broke. You try to, maybe this is really beyond you. Why don't you sort of give up and go and enjoy your normal life? Maybe this is the dream that's really, really beyond you. This is someone else's dream.
Right.
And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm just going to go to Nairobi and get a flight back. But in this sort of career, as I said, you can give up, but where do you want to go? You cannot call sick. You're in the middle of nowhere. Right. You gotta carry on. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna get myself to the first village, and I'm gonna catch a lift, and I'm gonna go to Nairobi. As I got on my bike and started sort of pedaling, I was passing through the Samburu tribe territory. A really, really beautiful people. They have beads hanging all over them, really, really sort of beautifully dressed. And as I started passing through their territory, the warriors, the Samburu warriors, they started running alongside me. They were so excited, they were so animated. They felt like they were, they hadn't seen a cyclist going through their territory. And they were all smiling. They were running alongside me. They gave me courage. And I thought, wow, this is great. These guys believe in me, and I have fans here. They're you do something interesting, and they see your what the state you're at, and these guys gave me courage. And I thought, wow, maybe if I get to the first village, maybe I can revisit my decision to give up. And let me just think about getting to the first village and decide about it there. So I got to the first village after doing that, 10 miles, 15 miles. Then I thought, okay, this wasn't too bad. Maybe I can get myself to the next village, and I get a lift from there to go to Nairobi. And I started playing this mind game over and over again, and then all of a sudden I find myself in Cape Town. And it just brought me to think, the whole adventure and the setting up this career for me has always been putting small goals and make sure you hit that goal, and then think about the bigger picture. So the important setting up a big goals, that sort of a big ambitions are so important, but it's always those sort of small steps that gets you to the destination.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, if you want to make something happen, you got to show up every day and take that step, or you got to show up every day and turn those pedals, or move forward.
I love that story. I love it because it's so literal. it's not just a saying that you would read somewhere. It's literal. You're dreaming big. Which is important, as you say. You're dreaming big. I'm going to get to Cape Town. But it's the small steps that will get you there. It's the small pedals, in your case, on the bike, this much each day, and focus on what I got to do each day, and then you find out that you get there. I mean, it's a beautiful little story. It's like a fable of some kind.
Thank you. Yeah, that's been my sort of a motto all the way through, and it happens in expeditions all the time.
The same sort of thing where you have to just focus on what's directly in front of you, or it just seems like too big a mountain to climb, literally.
Exactly, 100%. A lot of time. It happens every single time that I venture to the unknown.
When those kind of people are the folks who are in Kenya or in the Sahara who are running alongside you, do you get to know them? Are you still in touch with any of them? I mean, they're a lot more meaningful than Twitter followers, I think. How they've impacted your life. What kind of relationship do you have with those people that you meet along the way?
Especially with those people, I don't have any relationships because it was so remote and we couldn't speak the same language. I spent 2 days crossing through their territory, but we couldn't understand each other, but we had a cup of teas, and they took me to their homes, and it was incredible hospitality from them. But unfortunately, I don't think they have email address or WhatsApp or even mobile phone.
They're not on Instagram.
I don't think so. Right. I don't think they are.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised though, because I saw when I went to the Amazon, the first thing I was really shocked by. I mean, we went to the first tribe. They were called the Tembe. And I was really shocked when I arrived there and realized that the head of the tribe has a Facebook page. And he uses a smartphone. I was shell-shocked.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me, though. Having been to some remote parts of the world, it's that also makes sense.
Yeah, they were also listening to Adele as well, by the way.
Well, at least they have good taste.
Yeah, definitely.
There's just sticking with this mental preparation and the way you do this piece. At times in your videos, Reza, I hear you saying you do this self-talk. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I want to ask you about the importance of self-talk and those kind of affirmations. What is the mental preparation you have to do for your journeys? At this point, you're an old hand at it. I would imagine that there's some steps that you go through. What have you learned about keeping yourself going mentally?
Well, I mean, those days obviously was majority of the things that I used to do, it was like very sort of endurance based. I still, a huge amount of my work nowadays also because the places I, normally go to requires a huge amount of endurance preparation, not only physically, also mentally. And I basically, those days I didn't really know how to prepare myself, but nowadays I have a very clear vision of how to prepare it. If I'm about to kayak the river from source to sea, I live it every day till the day I actually depart. And preparation for all of these journeys is the key. There's a huge amount of preparation, mental and physical, goes through all of these journeys. If I have to climb, I've become so obsessed with that climbing that you cannot see me off the climbing wall. I'm always up there. If I have to go to a place that I don't know the language and I need to learn the language, that becomes my obsession. Day in, day out, I live that. If I have to make sure that I can climb a mountain and I can endure that, every day I make sure I'm climbing the mountain until the day that in all of these journeys, 70% of the success is down to preparation.
But what you just described, some of that is physical preparation, climbing the mountain or preparing in that way. I'm wondering about, first of all, you've been through a lot. Like I didn't want to explore it because you sort of gave me the short form of what happened. But when you spend days in prison in Darfur, there's going to be some trauma associated with that. Do you see a therapist when you get back to London? Like how do you deal with the mental implications of all that you go through?
To be honest, there is nothing that can prepare you for being in prison in Darfur. there is no mental preparation for it.
Right.
But I think the sense of humor, having that, looking at things in a different way and be able to make a funny situation out of them and actually laugh at it and laugh at yourself being in that situation, remove yourself from that really difficult situation and look at it from a different angle. Try to look at it in a sort of a humorous way. That is definitely helping me a lot to get through these difficult situations. I mean, when I'm in Darfur under arrest, all I'm trying to think is, okay, this, how often people get on, go under arrest in Darfur, that make a really good drinking story. I can tell that to anyone. No one can top that. You know what I'm saying? So I laugh at it, and that makes life easier.
Well, that good for you. If you can find the humor in that, that really is that's a brilliant way to mentally prepare. I wonder about how the dynamics of how you do this have changed now that you have made a name for yourself, now that you're known around the world as this global adventurer. In 2019, you traveled the entire length of Africa from Senegal to Somalia, but you were doing this while presenting and producing a television series that has aired on Fox, it's aired on BBC, on Channel 4, etc. When you go on these journeys and make documentaries these days, I guess you have a crew with you and you have equipment. And does that change the dynamics of what you're doing if you're not just a guy on a bicycle in the Sahara with maybe one friend or one person with them?
Definitely. And I think that has changed also due to the nature of my job. So those days I was an adventurer. So what is adventurer? Is obviously the guy who's doing an adventure. You try to prove a point of that you can actually do something extraordinary. Whereas an explorer has a different definition. Explorers, this is my definition, are storytellers, and they tell stories that changes people's understanding about the world that we live in. And that is my job. That's my job title. So I create those stories through books and sort of a television programs. And I always look at things that are so important, the stories that are so important to the global audience, and try to share those stories. So yes, I'm traveling with a camera crew these days, but I'm actually chasing something else. I'm chasing the facts and stories that provide people of a better understanding of this world. But I'm traveling along the Africa's most dangerous borders, or reporting on the impact of the expansion of the Sahara Desert, desertification, and global warming on terrorism across the Sahelian belt in Africa. This is a knowledge that I spend months and months acquired and lived with those people, talked to them, traveled and lived their lives to understand these sort of very complex issues, the sort of a tribal conflicts, to then turn that to a sort of a television program and share it with a sort of a wider audience. That has become my passion, and that's what I've been working on over the past a few years. As I said, my career has change and
I'm glad you've just described this, because I really actually want to ask you about this evolution from now that I think I understand the lexicon, from adventurer to explorer. because it's clear watching your work and following you that your imperative has changed from winning records and endurance, as you say, and wild travels to addressing things like climate change and the impact of outside forces on indigenous peoples. And I was thinking about you and thinking, like, when you visit remote places on the planet, I mean, you see beauty, you find amazement, you share that, but you also see poverty, you see disparity, you see racism, you see war, you see political tensions, you see environmental issues. What impact have those kinds of experiences had on you in recent years?
Well, a lot of them are really dark, and of course, as much as you like to be tough, when you see, those harrowing situations, definitely sort of impacting you. But however, when I'm out there, and I find I have a privilege to see those stories and have a better understanding about how the world works. And I feel my job is to share those stories. So I'm looking at it as part of my job. And I'm sure, there are many times that, mixed emotion really crushed me, and I find myself in a very difficult situation, and I have to live with those situations for a while. You always go back and revisit those horrible things that you've seen. But, it's part of a job. Nothing is perfect, but I absolutely love it. What
is the issue that has most captured your imagination in terms of wanting to create change? Is it the environment? What is it that has really either shocked you or moved you to the point where that's something you really need to focus on?
I've been focusing on, over the past few years, my major focus has been mainly on indigenous people around the world and the impact of outside forces, including environmental issues, on their lives. And, a couple of things really hit me through my previous travels. One was when I traveled to the headwaters of the Amazon, to the primary forest, to the territory of uncontacted people. And I saw, those people are not allowed to be contacted because as an outsider, we carry viruses. We are coming from a populated area, going to, the territory of people that they haven't been vaccinated. They can easily catch a virus, and with a simple handshake or a little exchange can eradicate the entire tribe. So when I went to see them from a distance, and I saw how their territory is just becoming smaller and smaller and smaller due to the global forces of development, gold mining, deforestation,
right,
logging,
right,
narcos, that kind of stuff, that hit me really bad. That was quite emotional to see, those people have every single right to live in that territory which belongs to them, but unfortunately the development squeezed them to the smaller and smaller pockets.
Does it feel does it feel, if not strange, I'm trying to find the right word. I mean, is there guilt associated with the fact that you will go and see such things or experience the lives of folks in certain parts of the world that are dealing with extreme disparity, say, and then return to your life in London?
Yeah, well, there are complete different worlds, aren't they? So when I come back from those trips for a few days, my head is in a completely different place. It's very difficult to adjust. But yeah, after a while, you have to get on with it. I'm not sure if that's a right answer to your question, but the disparity is huge. All I can say, Chad to London is only 5 hours away, but disparity between London and there is just completely two different worlds.
Let me ask you, I'm asking about your personal feelings, so let me ask you about your personal life. I know you're married. You mentioned your little kid earlier. I'm curious about you getting married. Who is this amazing person who's going to put up with you traveling around the world? I mean, is your wife an explorer as well?
No, but she's traveled in more places than I have. I mean, she's been in more countries than I've been, so that's why she can tolerate me.
So she's understanding that this is your gig and this is what you're not going to be around at certain times.
Yeah. That's our understanding, and I think she came to my life when that was my life. So she has seen it all. She's in fact, when I was under arrest in Darfur, she was pregnant with my baby.
Oh wow. Is it hard on you maintaining your, it's so hard being away from your loved one or whatever doing when you're traveling. How do you deal with that?
Well, I will tell you the next time that I will be away from my family, because it hasn't been an occasion that I've been away, because since I had a kid, the COVID has hit. So we have been under lockdown pretty much, have been grounded, haven't been able to travel anywhere for work. So I will tell you once we got back to sort of normal life.
Okay, well, deal. I'm gonna, we'll get back in touch and find out how it's going. I'm really amazed at what you do, and I find it deeply interesting, and I really like the way that not just the endurance part, which is fun and fascinating, but the way you share with us what you're discovering around the world. So I thank you for this interview. You have seen so much and truly experienced the world in a way that many of us will not do. What have you most learned about human beings?
Maybe that's a cliche, but I think that the more that I've traveled, and when you're on the road and you're at the mercy of the road, when you're vulnerable, your needs are quite basic. So I've seen more similarities than differences. I've seen there are more things that unites us than divide us. Especially, I sort of concluded that when I was traveling through, in my last journey through perhaps some of the most war-torn places in the world, and I realized, everyone's want their best for their kids. Everyone go out of their way to help you if they can, and there are more good people in this world than bad people. We shouldn't really listen to media that painting these really bad pictures of the world. At the end of the day, majority of them are good people, and they are helpful if they can.
Are your dear parents still around?
My dad passed away a long time ago, but my mom is alive, yes.
And given that your mom worked in television, now that you're appearing on major networks and doing these huge series that are quite popular and with big name sponsors, is she willing to accept that you're no longer unemployed?
I think she quietly sort of accepted that, and she's quietly proud, but I don't think she wants to mention it to me. I think she mentioned it to her friends in her Facebook and stuff like that. She posted my stuff.
She's still introducing you as a financial analyst.
Yeah, exactly. She would say, this guy made it really big in finance, but nowadays he does these sort of things.
What is the next adventure? I'm sure you're planning it. Where is the next destination? I've
been commissioned to do the second season for my last series. So the last series I've done for Amazon Prime was called The World's Most Dangerous Borders, and that the season 1 was in Africa, and now the season 2 will be the Americas' Deadliest Borders. So I'll be traveling along the Americas' deadliest borders, North and South America and Central America, to tell the story of the people who live along those borders.
Wow, that's going to be very interesting. Listen, I've so enjoyed this. I hope you do stay safe while you're doing all the things that you do, and I very much look forward to our next conversation, or even getting to see you in person post-COVID. Thank you for doing this, brother.
Of course. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Be careful, take care, hello to your family, and Khudafis.
Thanks, Jian. Qurbanat Khudafis.
Bye-bye. Reza Pakravan. There he's gone. Just like that. He's gone. Off to the next adventure. You hear the phone is gone. An Iranian-British explorer, documentary maker, motivational speaker, and writer. He's a 2-time world record holder as a global adventurer. Reza Pakravan joined us from London, England today. Microphone's back on. Captain Reza Gruvishaya and the fabulous Kian. Reza Pakravan didn't disappoint. I expected it to be inspirational talking to him. In terms of what he has decided to do with his life and the way he approaches it, it certainly was. And it was cute that he's now stuck in London with a baby. The great explorer. I enjoyed that. Shaya?
It was fascinating that he gave up everything and started from the scratch, and he's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
And he did all that he's done to get to that simple message that he said at one point in the interview just now. But he also, it's part of his TED Talk where he says, you take it step by step. He learned, he's in Sudan or wherever he was on the road, and he figures out that if he only focuses on making it to the next town, he can get there. If he thinks about Cape Town, if he thinks about the end of the journey, if he thinks about the top of the mountain, it seems daunting. But if he takes it step by step, it's such a brilliant life lesson and seemingly so obvious and yet so important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, truly. Guts, man. I just sum him up in one word: guts. Like, this guy is the most courageous person I've ever listened to. Really, it's amazing. I don't think I'd be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it takes a lot of guts to leave a comfortable life, that comfortable job, friends, family, everything, to just pursue the dreams that you had as a child. I think this is a lesson. We all have dreams that we have growing up, and somehow we forget that over time, whether that be family like pushing you to pursue a certain career path or whatnot, financial reasons. So, I mean, I don't know if I can do it, but I hope I can one day.
But can I just say, before we got to get to Chef Haas, but he is methodical about it. In other words, he didn't go crazy. He didn't sort of leave his job and run wild into the streets of the Sahara or whatever, doing drugs or whatever. I mean, he planned this out. He knew what his goal was. He wanted to be on networks. I wanted to go for a Guinness Book of World Records because I know that would make a name for myself. It'll be easier to get a network to pick up my show. So he's thinking about this in a very methodical way, which is interesting. It's not just like, I'm quitting, I want to go climb mountains. I'm going to the Sahara.
But this dream came from watching cartoons like Tintin, like you mentioned, or watching his father. But somehow, why didn't he pursue that right away? You know, obviously he got lost in society's view of what people should do. And it's a good thing he remembered. Not everybody has that blessing to be reminded of life. Like, you know, one day it's all going to go away, so you better make the most of it.
You know what's another way to really live life to its fullest?
What's that?
Is to become a patron of Roqe.
Roqemedia.com,
exactly. I wanted to mention. Be the Reza Pakravan of this show. Take us step by step. The analogy barely works. But we do want to remind you that part of the way we stay alive is through crowdsourcing and crowdfunding. We're trying to stay as commercial free as possible. So if you like what you hear on Roqemedia.com, it really means a lot to us. We see all the names on the list, and we really thank you for it. And by the way, there's a lot of people, there's a few people, I should say, who are becoming patrons and who have asked not to have their names. They're too modest. They don't want us to say their names on the air or celebrate them. But a big thank you to those folks who are becoming patrons. You just go to support us on our website, roqemedia.com. It's Thursday, and it's time for the next segment. He's waiting there. He's the captain of Cuisine, the culinary colonel, the Tabrizi talisman, the Farsi foodmeister, the Turkish tradesman. It's your chef Hos Zareh, and this is Roqe Hospitality.
Hi, this is your chef Hos Zareh, and this is Roqe Hospitality.
Hello, Chef Hos.
Hello, group. How are you?
How's beautiful San Francisco?
I'm not going to talk about my exercise. I guess I got a devil eyes or catch me bad zadan. I hurt my back. But the pain But pain went away with a great medicine. I was lucky to do a little cooking demo, raise the money for my school that I'm building for the needy kids around the global. So I'm happy.
Oh, what a good guy you are. And you know, Chef, you are bringing my mom and I are already close, but after each week with your segment, I talk to her about what you're teaching us and whether she agrees or not. And so last week with the saffron, using the ice, I said, Mom, have you ever tried the ice technique? And she said, no, Vali, videoshi nigah kardam. I watched the video, and it was still, the color was better when he did it with the heat than the ice, you know? So she still believed that using the heat was but she knows, as you said, exactly the temperature and all of that to use. So I still want to use your ice technique with the saffron.
You're putting me on hot spot. I have to be careful from that. I don't want to mess around with the moms.
Oh, my mom she's on it, but she loves you. I mean, and she's, you're the Tabrizi talisman. Listen, I see for your segment today, and that you're going to teach us how to best use barberries in your cooking, how to best use barberries. So why don't you start us off by telling us what are barberries for those who don't know?
The barberries are this beautiful, small tear-shaped fruit or berries. They come from the bushes called Barberries vulgaris. They are different kinds. They grow wild, and they have sometimes they use as an exotic ornamental plant in the garden, and they are beautiful. But this particular one, the berries we use, has a delicious flavor, tartness, and we use in the Iranian culture, and no other countries uses as much as Iranian do for culinary, because they originally used the barberries for the medicine, and still they do. It's one of the best.
It's an antioxidant, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Why are barberries important in Persian cuisine?
Well, great question. In Iranian, I call it, we love our sour bomb. Like we have sour cherries, sour plums, pomegranate. We love sour cherry. So before we knew the lemons, after 7th century, we got introduced lemon from Roman, and which is originally things comes. They believe they come from China. So we used to have these barberries as a sour element to our dishes instead of lemon. So it's been our cuisine for a longer time, and also lemon growing needs a lot of work and water. But these guys grow wild, everything. All you need is go foraging and pick them.
Sorry, Chef, what do we call barberry in Farsi?
Okay, I knew your mindset is coming. That would be for Mona, Zeresh. I don't want to go there. You can tell what's Zeresh meaning in different meaning.
It's Zeresh.
Zeresh.
Okay, Zeresh.
I love the way you say
Shaya and Reza have been wondering what the hell we're talking about.
Because I thought he was talking about Barbary.
No. So is Zeresh or barberries? Were they more available in the Persian part of the world than, because they're not a big North American kind of plant or fruit, whereas we use it a lot in Persian cuisine.
You're surprised. It is. There's in Africa, Europe, in North America, they grow, but the usage in culinary are not as much as Iranian, but it's getting popular because the birds they eat their seeds and they cultivate around the world. So, but again, when it comes to culinary, Iranians are far ahead of the other country they use this barberries.
And we didn't have lemons?
Before 7th century, no.
Interesting. So what are give us some of the usages and I guess the flavor profile, like how we use it for flavor, barberries or zereshk, as those who want the Farsi version.
Okay, yeah. The best way to do it, barberries are tart and tangy. and you can use any dishes you want to give that profile. And I have a list of this stuff what we use it, and also I'm gonna talk later on about how we can incorporate in a modern, different way. But to know about barberries, the beauty about this plant, I want to quickly say they start blooming in the spring. Beautiful, gorgeous yellow color they're gorgeous, and then eventually towards the spring they become clusters of green berries in the summer, and in fall they ripen and become gorgeous red colors to time pick. Now, tricky part is here in fall. If they are small, you pick them, they are perfect for rice and culinary. But if they stay longer on the bushes, they get bigger, they spill the seeds, and it's become hard to take the seeds out. So that's the time you pick them, you can use it for sauces and disregard the seeds. But the best time in fall to pick, and again, Iranian, they love labor of love, like Roqe, and we talk about saffron. When you pick the barberries, one by one is the best method. You cannot use a glove because they have a very sharp thorn. You can pick them one by one. But easiest one technique that you hold the branch, and from the bottom to top, you slide it, because thorns are pointed to upward. So when you slide it, you don't hurt yourself. But again, at least a few times you're going to poke yourself when you're picking the barberries.
So, and when you use them with the rice, it's we call that zeresh polo, right? Like jeweled rice.
Yeah, jewels, right? Because if they look like a box of the jewels, like with the pistachio, the color. But again, barberry is not only for top, but the vibrant color. Because the chef, what you look for dish is the look-wise and also texture and the flavor. And the texture of the barberry is like a bomb. When you chew it, it explodes your mouth, and it gives you this little wake-up call.
So, just parenthetically, just as an aside, I've heard that barberries are actually becoming increasingly popular in America. It wasn't, I mean, people didn't even know what they were. When I thought when I was growing up, we were trying to explain ZX to people in it. But is it true that they're growing in popularity?
Absolutely, because you know what, American with the social media, we are getting a little more like a first step was when the pomegranate took over the cranberry juice in the United States, because of, again, nothing to do with nationalism, but the people, they start find out this is health benefits and all that everything about pomegranate much better than cranberry. Same thing happening right now with barberries. Barberries are replacing the cranberry because better, more as a nutrition medicine value, and also the chef's talks. Like when I start touring America with the company that I later on became employee, I was teaching the chefs the dishes. But chefs are different. We are weird people. We look for something unique to find about this element, and we have to get their attention. What I did was, like for example, I let them a little dry. I ground them with a little salt. I rub my fish or meat and grill them and give them a chef. So their antennae start rising, and they're like, wow, what an interesting and flavor, because acid is good in the food. So that's how I got their attention and the flavor profile. And we start cooking together, and they learn, and then became demand. And now in past, this is like about 5 years ago, 4 years, I was traveling. But introduction was so good with the chefs. So the company that we buy, and they told me their market increased by 100% by barberries buying from the chefs.
So just on the healthy part, the antioxidant element, they're dry, right? Are they healthier when they're dry, or are they healthier when you hydrate them, when they're blooming?
Well, the flavor, the health benefits there, but when you bloom it, you're getting the flavor out, the rehydrating, and there are techniques for that, and there's a simple way of just putting it in the water for 8 to 20 minutes. Why I say 8 to 20 minutes depends on the freshness of your barberries. When you buy barberries, you're looking for a red, vibrant color, and those are freshness, means like 6 months, 4 months, been dried, hydrated, and you put in the water 8 minutes, it's fine. Otherwise, it stay longer, gets soggy. But if they're a little older and like over a year, they're a little darker color, you want to soak longer. And again, to hydrate the barberries and keep it in the cold and dark area to keep the freshness on that one. So what you do, this is one method you use because you're going to put in your stews or soups or their muffins or anything. You're going to cook it again. But if you want to use as a garnish, that Iranian, they use more as more for the chicken, so like more polo, Zeresh more, these stuff they use. So you want to give a little bit another touch to it, which is we do. I am showing in a video. You use them, first soak them, then you saute them a little tiny bit with the butter and sugar to caramelization. Then you have, my mouth's getting water again. It's like this tartness and the caramelization from the brown sugar or regular sugar. You give it this beautiful texture for these barberries, and mixed with nuts is a phenomenon. Like in especially Azerbaijani cuisine, we use a lot of dry fruits and the nuts combination, and barberry is one of them in there.
So did you explain the best way to hydrate them just now?
Yes, I show on the both way with the water and also with the butter and the sugar. And also to have fun, I have a list of this stuff that you might blow your mind away. I want to see if our amazing, fabulous team can tell me what kind of dish they know barberries being used. So I can check mark to see if they know all of it.
I love it. So so the video is going to be how to best use barberries in your cooking, including how to hydrate them, how to make them the most effective in your cooking. Can I just ask a quick question? Once you prepare your zeresh, your barberries, do you believe that you should finish the polo, like you do all the cooking, you get all the rice ready and put them on top then, or do you integrate them into your rice if you're using them that way earlier?
Well, for presentation, I recommend on top as a garnish. But if you cooking, for me in the restaurant as a chef, we cook the rice pilaf, but I show the bagal pulao at the end. I toss every ingredient, so keep that beautiful freshness of the color, the vibrant color. If you cook it inside the rice, you cooking it, but the color goes away. The flavor is there, but you can at the end include in your dishes like a salsa. I don't want to say what I want to reuse it, but I'm going to test our fabulous team.
Fabulous. Well, I can't wait to look at this video. How to best use barberries in your cooking. Any questions, team?
Do you know why we use zeresh as a, for example, when something is not precious, we call it zeresh. So why do we use it? Was it cheap in previous time in Iran?
I don't, to be honest, I don't know the reason. I usually know all of it, but now you make me to go search.
You're stumped the chef.
You are very smart. You turned the question for me. My question for you was, tell me the dishes that you know Barbary used. You are very smart.
Oh.
So Barbary, zeresh polo for more. So that's Barbary rice with chicken. Yeah.
Like I said, tart flavor. Basically you can use in a garnish for faluda. You can use on the scones and muffin, oatmeal, meatballs, kuku sabzi. Then on top of the soup more, you put in the color and vibrant. As a chef, I use it for my salsas as ceviche, like seafood ceviche. It's phenomenal. The most common around the world they use barberries is for jam, preserve, or pickle. For the people they bake, the barberry is the best agent as a pectin. To keep the sauce nice, rich, and for the pastry department, people they cook out there listening, use as a pectin for your pastry. And I mentioned about my grounding the barberries with salt, with the rubbing the meat, but I want to give you one more thing I used to do in my previous restaurant. I used to hydrate them, put them in the freezer, they get frozen, and I used to make a simple syrup with the barberries. And then my bar manager used to make a cocktail, and at the end we drop this frozen barberries, the hydrated frozen bar in it, and that's how we expand the knowledge of the people as a curiosity, our cuisine ingredient with what they are used to, like with the cocktail. So that's been my focus as a chef, with the chefs, find a way they get their attention. And then when they know about this, of course, as a chef, when you want to know one ingredient, you want to go to history, you want to know how they use it. And that's why these chefs, they go study Iranian cuisine, find more about our food, and they come up and they make their own way.
Right.
And that's success story for me as a getting attention.
By the way, dried barberries I've seen in granola, right? Like it's like you can not hydrate them and eat them as well, right?
Well, they've been flavored. You can because by itself the barberries can be a little too harsh.
Yeah.
Like olives, you pick olives, they're the same. So when you have actually for me, the best barberries are the fresh one picked. But unfortunately, the harvesting time is like a short time. and or you have to go frozen. Even the beauty of that Jian, they last through winter with the snow, and you can go even pick it.
Huh. Well, Chef, thank you. We've learned a lot about Barbaries, about Zeresh, and we're going to run over to your video, your latest video, how to best use Barbaries in your cooking, will be at roqemedia.com, the front page of our website, roqemedia.com, and also on our Telegram channel, Roqe Media. You can find us on Telegram at Roqe Media. Thank you for this, Chef.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
That's Chef Hossare in San Francisco with Hospitality. Again, you can see the video at roqemedia.com and our Telegram channel, Roqe Media. Well, there you go. This is full time for Roqe for today. Thank you, gang. Great job. Our website, roqemedia.com, is the hub of all things Roqe, where you can tune into previous episodes, see our Roqe moments, our Roqe reads, hospitality segments, and our patrons page. We have this page of all of the guests who've ever been on Roqe and links to their appearances. roqemedia.com. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together each week. Producer Susan Ponce, the artist, Thoughtful Dagin, the fabulous Keon, Savvy Roham, Aray Merdad, Master Muhammad, Chef Haas, Captain Reza, and Groovy Shaya. Thank you to all of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. Find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. Mizun Bashi.